So in a lot of ways, I'm quite extroverted. A lot of ways, I'm quite introverted. I'm one of those people that can go into a situation, be extroverted, but I do need to retreat and recharge my batteries. And the role of an ECD is pretty exhausting because you've got to be across everyone and everything. 1 minute doing, management tasks, and actually with the world that it is, managing people with mental health issues or whatever, it becomes a big thing. You've got to be doing that at 10 o'clock. And at 11:30 you're doing a pitch, to whoever. It's quite exhausting, but I think it's incredibly rewarding as well when you spot talent and realise that not everyone has to be like you to be good.
Thank you for joining me, Jan. I think I should start by kind of addressing the listener and saying, if they don't know who Jan Elliott is, let me give you a brief intro.
Perfect.
You're one of the first creative hires at Mother. You were literally one of the reasons most of us went to the cinema on a Wednesday by the Orange Wednesday ads. You've created the first blind pregnancy test. And you've even created your own agency launched on a bloody boat as well. And I'm not even going to bother mentioning about the countless awards either. But above all, mate, I mean this sincerely, I think every single person that has worked into you, who's worked with you, has only ever said wonderful, remarkable things about you. And that's why I'm so happy to have an hour with you talking about you and your career. So,
well, it's all downhill for me.
It's all downhill. No, let's start by,
But
seriously, welcome and thank you for joining me. I want to start by asking you, who's the first person that made you feel like you had talent?
Actually, so the first person that connected with me was I did a 2-year foundation course, art and design, down at Southampton.
Yeah.
And the idea of a 2-year foundation course is you do loads of different things. So you'll do some sculpture, you do some fine art, you'll do some graphic design, you'll do some photography. When it got to the graphic design bit, everything I did had an idea in it. And the truth is everyone else was doing sort of nice book covers or album covers or anything with they look great, but with little meaning. And I ended up doing ideas that I felt had a point to them, like resonated. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, these are quite sort of politically motivated at this point. Okay. We're going back a while. Okay. I did politics and economics A-level.
Ah, right.
But
what year was this?
Oh, we don't want to do that.
Okay.
But the world was in colour. It wasn't in black and white. Yeah. But I did things like. So yes, as I say, politically motivated. There was at one point there was the Birmingham bombings in the 70s, and 6 people got wrongly convicted of those bombings. And what I did was create a cigar case. And cigar boxes in those days, they often came in 6s. And my graphic design was putting their faces on each of the cigars.
Oh, wow.
And my comment was the miscarriage of justice was like,
yeah,
smoking their life away,
yeah,
in a way. So very sort of right on at the time and probably quite justified. But that's what I was kind of doing. And then there
was like advertising at the time, almost. It was like kind of.
Well, this is the thing. The guy said.
Who was it?
Mr. Douglas.
Mr. Douglas.
Scottish guy. No surprises there.
Smoking a cigar, was it?
Yes, exactly. I was just trying to feed him cigars. No, but then I did these other things. This one actually makes me quite cringe quite a lot.
Okay.
But there's a fine line, isn't there, between good ideas.
Especially when you start out, so we'll let you...
Yes, exactly. I don't know if there was a brief to design a new postage stamp or whether I just decided to design a new postage stamp, but I designed one where I took the Queen's side of the Queen's head, but my design of the postage stamp was to design exactly the same, but as a mirror image, so they looked at each other. And this is the really cringy bit. because this was all based on Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. If you want to change yourself, you have to look yourself in the mirror, and that's where all the changes are going to come from. And I felt like if I could put the Queen looking at herself on a stamp that would go around the whole of the country, I could influence the whole of the country and get people to start changing their ways and be better people. Yeah. And I thought if the Queen was saying that message, then everyone might listen.
I don't think that's cringy.
Well, is it not cringy? I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of like one of those.
That's just me.
Yeah, maybe it's not. I mean, if someone said, "Actually, that's a great idea, mate. That's lovely," I would go, "Yeah, great. I think it is." But I really firmly believed in these things, and I always think that ideas should be taken seriously. You know, if you're going to put things out in the world, then do it seriously. You know, I mean, even if that's a joke, by the way, even if that's a funny script or whatever, it should be done with intent. Okay. There we are. So anyway, Mr. Douglas was the guy. So a very long answer. They won't all be long-winded answers, I'm sure, to your questions. No. But he was the guy that said, "I think you should consider advertising. Have you done that?" And I really hadn't. And I was still finding my feet. I mean, at this point, I didn't know whether I wanted to be a sculptor or a photographer, you know.
Always in the arts, though. You were kind of...
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because... Funnily enough, my upbringing was very, very military. My dad was in the army. And, of course, I lived on army barracks, and I saw the regimental way, literally, very clearly. I mean, once my dad asked me to play cricket for the army to help out with numbers. Do the right thing, right? You
were not a star bowler or batter.
Well, I did all right actually that day, but no. I was at Sandhurst actually, and I got a lift down in someone's car, one of the other players, to the pitches, and I asked the guy why does he want to be in the cricket team, and he said to me, the only reason I really want to be in the cricket team is because it's the only, and when I drive my car in these grounds, it's the only time I can listen to the radio. Oh. They weren't allowed radios in their barracks and stuff. So I had a very, military kind of upbringing, and I kind of felt, I'm not sure that's right for me.
Fair. Then you went to
art. So I think I probably flipped.
Yeah,
and just went, well, I'm going all the way over there.
Polar opposite, bosh.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So what was the journey from Mr. Douglas saying you should consider advertising? Where did it go then? I want to go from...
Oh, gosh. Mate. Well, so I finished that course. Oh, well, then I did another course, which was an advertising and marketing course at the same college in Southampton, 2 years. And that was a broad course, learnt all about PR, crisis management. We were in pods to run our own little agencies, so I ended up being the creative in that sort of thing. But really, to be honest, I didn't still understand getting a job as a creative. And in fact, I left Southampton and I took a job in media selling airtime space at Hanger Lane just to get to London, because I thought I've got to go to London. During that time, which was a miserable time, I have to say, it was not my bag, I met, through friends, I met an individual actually called Andrew Fisher, who is at Saatchi's, a creative at Saatchi's, and I met him socially. And through him, he explained what he did as a job. He was a copywriter at Saatchi's, up in Charlotte Street at the time. And bless him, I met him a few times just socially, and he said, I think you could do it. I think you've got the right brain for it. And he helped me, told me about Watford College, which Tony Cunningham ran. And so I applied. I was too late. The course had finished. And Andrew Fisher, known as Fish, said, Yanni, just ring up Tony again and say, I really want to get on this year. I'm quite old by this point, you know what I mean? I need to get on with if that's what I wanted to do. Oh, and by the way, everyone tells you, oh, no, you don't want to do that, mate. It's so busy. It's competitive. You'll never get a job. You'll be burnt out. But I really loved it. So I got on that course. I loved it, and pretty obsessed with ideas for a long time. Still am. I love that conundrum. I mean, some people do crosswords or whatever. I like the conundrum of a problem to solve creatively and what that would be. So I embraced that, and I did that course, and then I started doing the placements. Do you want me to carry on? I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
death.
I think I'm just curious of like that first kind of few years in Adland at that time.
Yeah.
Because when I talk to a lot of people, and I talk about Jan Elliott, and they're like, "Oh, Jan, I remember his Super Noodle ads and all of that stuff from the Mother days."
Yeah.
Remember we were talking before about the journey working. What was it actually like at Mother? Because Mother Such is still it's an iconic agency, a special place, and you were there at the very beginning. So I want to know how all of that came around. So you did the classic placement scheme. How did the Mother thing come around?
Sure.
How did you get introduced to Mark and Bob?
Yeah. So what happened there was, did the rounds at placements. I then got into GGT. GGT, Gold Greenleys Trot,
Right.
existed at the time. The ECDs there were Robert Saville and J. Pon Jones. And they hired me and my partner then, Jim Hosking, who's now director. They hired me there, and they saw something in us that they loved, and they were a great first boss. But of course, because you'd been doing the rounds and talking to loads of agencies, because you've got to do that before you get hired, we'd also been talking to Hal Henry,
Right.
HHCL.
Who at the time were like...
Who at the time were the hottest shop in town.
Yeah.
You know, they were doing the tango ads, they were doing, Mets, they were doing all sorts of really innovative work, from blackcurrant tango to, well, the whole of the tango portfolio, to be honest. There were great teams there, Jim and Chaz, Trevor Nowell, Jonathan Kneebone, Dave Johnson, Tom Burnett, Steph Jones, and they were all doing incredible things. Like, I mean, Tom and Steph, I think, did the first ad that you could rewind and there was clues in it, and
Wow.
Yeah, exactly, to be able to get your free test drive or whatever it was. But it was always innovative things, and and they were doing ads that ran on one channel different to the ones that were running at the same time on another channel, depending on what you were watching. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
So my dilemma was, Hal Henry then, I'd been at GGT 9 months only, and then Hal Henry rang us up to say, we want to hire you. So sheepishly, we went to Robert and Jay and said, we've been offered this other job and I'm really sorry, we've got to take it. And Robert, who will now be referred to as Bob, was brilliant about it. They were both brilliant about it, actually. And they said, look, quite frankly, we would do the same. You should do it. It's a great opportunity. But look, let's keep in touch, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. And so we left on really good terms, and we did keep in touch. And it was only then, I mean, what I didn't know then was soon Bob and Jay were to leave GGT and set up Mother, where after a while they rang us up to say, would you be interested in coming? We did a bit of flirty. I think actually we said no at the first point because we were just about to shoot a tango ad.
Cool.
So it was a bit like, we would love to, but the timing's wrong.
And this is at the very infancy of Mother. Like...
Yeah, so, well, yeah, absolutely. So they, at this point, they had just moved to Clerkenwell from their office in Soho Square. Mother started an office upstairs in a literally a little room in Soho Square before, with the Channel 5 account, I think, was their launch account. And then they moved to Clerkenwell. And I remember Robert walking us round, showing us the place, which was fantastic. It was an open plan space. It was very modern. It had a caravan in the window, like on an RSJ, just resting there.
Why?
Well, I think it was, what I loved about Mother was how down to earth it was, actually, and how weirdly normal people were. And I think it was to remind us about our public. But equally, it was an innovative space to have a private meeting, because the whole place was open plan, and it was nice to be able to just pop in there for a confidential chat or just a new space, because otherwise you could be overheard by everyone, you know.
A caravan.
But a caravan, but I mean a classic old one as well. And I mean nothing bling. I mean it was your traditional. Let's go to Poles F for
How
the
do you
weekend.
get that into a building?
The big double doors at the back.
Ah, got you. Okay.
Yes, they unfolded. It was very good.
Fair.
Which on another occasion got rammed when we were working late. But we'll come on to that another time.
I think we've got to talk about that now. What happened? So, okay, sorry. Let's go back to that's when you go to Mother. So you politely said not quite. Kept in touch with Bob and Jay, and then how long before they managed to?
Oh yeah, so a couple of years into How Henry we then went to Mother. Jay had actually decided not to pursue Mother, and he had left, and then but Bob had got his team together with Mark and Steph and Andy Med and so on, and Libby and Franklin were there at the time as well. So when I joined, there was 12 people,
Right.
and
God,
we were a proper family. We solved problems around a table. Everyone was super talented.
What was the mission at that point? Like, why did they create it in the first place? Like, what?
Well, to do things differently. I think to recorrect perhaps where advertising was maybe going wrong, and to bring back the humour. Basically, the first few years of Mother was always funny stuff.
Yeah.
And they wanted to shake it up. They wanted to do stuff. They'd all been in enough agencies where there were barriers to doing great creative work. You know, sensitivities. You know, we don't want to do that because it's scary, or the client might get pissed off. Whereas I think Robert knew that's what he wanted to create. Mark's a genius, you know, as far as writing and doing that and shaking things up too. They were a great team. And then, you know, Andy Med, lovely guy, has great contacts within Coca-Cola, and Steph was like the guy in those boards in Police Academy where they pop up, you shoot them down, and Steph just comes straight back up with like, no, this is what we're going to do now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, the energy of
You need them in every company, I think.
Yeah, absolutely you do. Yeah, so you know, he got his team together, and he wanted to be absolutely the best and shake it up and do the most controversial things and properly invest in creativity, which is what they did.
Wow. God, so talk me through that journey, because those ads, I was looking through them yesterday just to kind of refresh my memory of some of them, and they're so funny. Which are you?
The Super Noodles ones?
Some of the Super Noodle ones. Which was the other?
Orange, we
Orange
did as well. Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper one. Oh my God, I forgot about. Which are you? It's honestly so many. I was like, Jesus, I just forget how many wicked ads you've made. Which
That's very
have you had like the kind of your top three of that time? Which were the
I mean, my favourite ad campaign we've ever written is definitely the Orange Gold Spots, because they ran for years.
Which one? Which celeb?
Which of them?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're all slightly different. You know, they all tickle me in different ways. But I'm really proud of them because, I mean, it was. If I can just explain for a second, that was a 5-second brief they wanted. No one wanted to touch it, really. It was a bit like, I don't know if you remember, but in the cinema, there was running these turn your phone off ads, and it was a clip from Jaws with Robert Shaw. The phone rang, and then Robert Shaw came up on the boat, and you know, and looked around, and then it just said turn your phone off during the performance. But what I think we're all really proud of actually is it was a 5-second brief, but we worked out, and it was for the cinema only. They were running a cinema ad of 60 seconds that they were running on the telly. And we said, hang on a minute, why don't we go back to why we all got into advertising in the first time, which is some great cinema ads where you'd arrive at the cinema ahead of time to be able to watch the ads that weren't on the telly. So there was a special experience for you. And we put that 5 seconds with the 60 seconds and made something bespoke for our captive audience, which it was. It wasn't like anyone was watching telly and moving in and out of the room. And we did, you know, something quite strong and brave, but I loved the writing, and Luke and I wrote hundreds for every one that was out there. Because for every talent that we had to find, we had to write them a script to get them interested.
There's quite a few of them. How many in the end? 6 or?
No, more. I mean, there was 3 or 4 years. I mean, it carried on after we'd left. Some people took over the mantle, you know.
I remember.
But I remember
Sean Hastings. Is it Sean Hastings?
Sean Astin, yeah, from
Hastings.
Lord of the Rings.
And I always remember when he gets off his seat and he's really short. It just creases me up. I was like, genius.
Yes, exactly. And he's left the precious food or whatever it was. I mean, we had a very good laugh doing that. And the actors were brilliant. They got into it. I mean, even Spike Lee, sorry. And it was quite controversial, that story.
The one with the cap, right?
With the cap,
blue
yeah,
cap.
and changing the colour of the baseball team, basketball team, or whatever. And no, but they were all brilliant, and we loved that. It was just a great moment where we all came together. So that's got to be my favourite piece, and I love working with Luke on that. He was brilliant.
That's your partner, right?
Yeah.
How many years?
17.
What's the secret to a happy partnership then, for doing it for 17 years?
Totally respect each other's role. Luke can do things that I couldn't possibly do. He's a brilliant art director. He has a brilliant eye. He also has this brilliant quality which worked really well with me, and we sort of met halfway, which is, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he has a really healthy disrespect for advertising, like I do, in a way. I mean, like, one of the reasons I want to get into it, because
Shake things up.
I wanted to change it. I want to improve it. You know, when you see a bad ad, you go, I can do better than that. So I had the sort of love of the great stuff that you used to see, but also a little bit of a hatred of going, that can be better. Yeah. But anyways, going back to, Luke, so Luke didn't like advertising people or advertising, in a sense. And I mean this in the really best way. Yeah. So when he came into Mother as a freelancer, this is how we met, he was a bit like, who are you twats? And he'd come in, he'd do his work brilliantly, then he'd go home. After a few weeks of him hanging out with myself, Caroline Pay, Kim Gehrig, Thomas Hilland, Sam and Joe and everyone, you know, like loads of brilliant people, we managed to persuade him to come to the pub in the evening.
Did he not want to go in here?
Well, it took a while, but he, you know, I remember particularly one day walking to the pub, he said, I didn't think I'd like people in advertising, but actually you lot are all right. And we hang out for a long time and enjoyed ourselves. And then actually my partner at the time left Mother, and Bob said to me, I was an art director at this point. Oh. Yeah. He said, you're not an art director, Jan, you're a writer. Why don't you ask Luke if he wants to be your partner? So I had to ask Luke out on a date.
The creative date.
A creative date, and ask him. But he said yes.
Oh, 17 years.
17 years. So I think literally a healthy respect for each other's point of view. The good thing is, I could be really passionate about an idea and it wouldn't hit the mark with Luke. But what I would, and vice versa, by the way. But what I did know is when we both agreed, things were good. Mm. We had got through the advertising bullshit moment, and we had got to some reality, and hopefully we'd hit something interesting, you know, culturally. Yeah.
Wow. So how long were you at Mother, and where does it go from there? Because at some point you do your own thing. You've been at so many wonderful agencies and made so much work. Let's go from how many years at Mother? 9. Oh, nearly a decade.
Nearly a decade.
Not a bad way to start a career or life.
No. I mean, and, you know, to be honest, quite a spiritual home for me. Yeah. And also at that point, we were writing, working, making, doing. Yeah. I mean, we would sometimes, some years we were making 3 good campaigns a year. You know what I mean? Like, it was really, we were on fire, and I loved that. And so a spiritual home, yes, and could have easily have been a mother lifer. But the other thing is, do you want to do that? I mean, my makeup is, what else could there be? And I just wanted to explore, and we both did. So we went off to be ECDs of WCRS at the time. Then Engine, now House 337. We just wanted to explore. I mean, Mother wasn't broken. There was nothing wrong with that. It was just like, what are we going to do?
9 years.
Yeah, exactly. 9 years is you've got to decide at some point. So we went there, did that for 5. And then after that, and Luke and I had always talked about one day having our own agency. We wanted to make things. We wanted to do it slightly differently. So that was always in our mind.
Yeah.
We went to WCRS. After that, we had some good successes there. Actually, I'm particularly, Sky Believing Better.
Yeah, wow.
Was written by me, Luke, and Kit Dareham.
Wow.
And that's still in existence today, and I'm pretty proud of that, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, you sort of go, oh, yeah, it's an end line. But actually, when you still see it about, it resonates for me. But
I've got to ask, that step up to ECD from the doing, what's that like? Because I'm sure lots of people in that position, either if they're in senior creative positions or a CD, taking that step up. What was the major difference? Because you strike me as somebody that always likes to be close to the work, doing as well. Like most great creative leaders, they just want to still make at their core. But like for you, what was that step up like?
Well, the step up in general is definitely a step up.
Right.
And I think it's difficult to know if you really want that or not until you've done it. So you do get further away from the work. You have a period, and I still struggle with it, of wanting to write it yourself when you should be listening, steering, chucking a brilliant nugget into the mix. And then there's half of your brain that goes, I'm going to the coffee shop. But that's more about me than most ECTs, I think.
I don't know.
But I don't think you ever get rid of... I mean, I'm still want to make stuff, and I haven't hit my stride yet.
Yeah.
In this period of my life, there's still more to come, but it's definitely a step up. I mean, you have to get into the nitty gritty. You're going to be much more on the management side. You're going to be hiring and firing people. You're going to be appraising them. It uses every part of your brain, not just the creative side. And I'm saying that's really good for some people. I mean, some people are probably better managers than they are creatives, coming from the creative side. And there are some creatives, I think, that probably shouldn't manage. And I don't know where I am on that, although I do like people and I like mentoring them, and I think I'm pretty empathetic and have some emotional intelligence.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I think everybody that's worked under you has thoroughly enjoyed it. I know lots of people that have. So I can imagine you as a very good manager, doer leader. I find it fascinating how do you create the creative environment then for your creatives to really flourish, to do their best work?
I think you have to give them respect, give them trust. I mean, I think also you've got to be quite tough. I mean, like if it's not working out, it's not working out, and that might be there. Whatever there might be a better place for them. But I think you've got to also listen. Like, I have taken on new jobs where, if I'm really honest, the writing's been on the wall for certain people as I arrive, but I have gone, okay, well, that's fine. I get you think that, but I would like to work with that person and see for myself. And actually, if you spend some time with people and genuinely listen to them, there can quite often be nuggets in there that actually means they're very good creatives. And perhaps they don't need to go. They need to stay. And it's other people, you know what I mean? Like they actually can be the geniuses.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to make up your own mind on what team you want around you.
I would say that's a superpower of yours, Jan. Yeah, seriously. I think your ability to spot golden nuggets in people and like the creative genius in some people. Yeah.
Well, I think that's very kind of you to say so. I find it quite exhausting.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, I'm quite extroverted. A lot of ways, I'm quite introverted. I'm one of those people that can go into a situation, be extroverted, but I do need to retreat and recharge my batteries. And the role of an ECD is pretty exhausting because you've got to be across everyone and everything. 1 minute doing, management tasks, and actually with the world that it is, managing people with mental health issues or whatever, it becomes a big thing. But you've got to be doing that at 10 o'clock and at 11:30 you're doing a pitch, to whoever. It's quite exhausting, but I think it's incredibly rewarding as well when you can spot talent and realize that not everyone has to be like you to be good.
Yeah.
I think that's important. And everyone has their quirks, Some people are quite tricky to work with, but if they're good, they're good.
Your job as a manager is to help them
Yeah.
become better, right?
Yeah. And actually, if you have normal conversations with people, they're usually pretty receptive, even if you're perhaps giving them a watch out or steering the right path or a better path, But I think honesty is really key.
Okay. What is it like working with someone, let's say somebody who you step into a management role and you spot there's a bit of creative genius in that person who's got a crazy idea and you're like, that is genius. I'm going to help you make it because I know how to, my job as ECD as a puppet master, client whisperer or whatever, I know how we can package this up to present. Like, what's that like? And have you got any examples of that? I'd love to know.
Well, it's hard. One.
Yeah, I bet. I'm not saying that's easy.
Well, because actually, there's not an agency or a creative in town that isn't probably coming up with some pretty good ideas most of the time. Where we all struggle with in this industry is selling them. And I think that is a real art. And if I'm really honest, I do my best. But there are some absolutely brilliant people at that art. Like Robert Saville is a good example of that. Like,
what made him so special at that? He's a creative, right?
Elliott's a lot brighter than me. And well, also, look, I mean, Robert had the ability, if a client asked a creative question that they were stumbling on, Robert had the ability to come back with a business answer, which diffused the creative question.
Wow.
I mean, I can't think of an exact example, but if they're hung up on this letterbox that's red and they think that's going to break the ad, Robert will use some other measurement that makes them forget about the letterbox. And I think that's a really big skill, which we try and learn. But he's got a very amazing all-round understanding, I'd say, which you want in your team. That's the most important thing. But I will do my best to get it in front of the right people, talk to the right people. But a lot of it's about relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships with those clients, equally the desire from that client. Like some clients, they're doing a job and their desire for great work isn't number one on their agenda. And I think that helps when you set up your own place, to be honest with you, like Mother did. They did it on their own terms. And that's even really hard. I mean, I've been there. That's hard because you need money coming in.
I was going to ask you, that's the next step, because we kind of, my fault, we're going around. But
No, sure.
That's really interesting. So, yes, let's just go back, WCRS, 5 years as ECD. You and Luke always had that itch to do something yourself.
Yes.
Why Fabula? Why boat? What was it like? What was the final straw that broke the camel's back to do it?
Well, I think it was now or never, actually, timing wise. So, and we'd done 5 years at WCRS, so it was like, what's our next move? So that felt like a good time. If we didn't do it then, it would have been too late, I think, quite honestly. But then we were always looking for an interesting office. You know, where could we work out of that was different? And felt like we were coming at the industry from a different perspective. And that's why we ended up on a barge on the canal, which was great in a lot of ways. And also, when you're setting up your business, you've got to think about the money. And in reality, people who were taking on office buildings were signing 5-year leases. You know, and we were like, whoa. I mean, actually, I'll come on to why that was important, but the barge, we could give them like a couple of months' notice, and that'd be it if it didn't work out, which is very important. So when you set up your own place, or if you're going to do that, do it with a client on your books, like set up with them that you're already working on. I would think is the best advice I can give anyone that's setting it up. That's what most people do. That's what your Adam and Eves have done. You know, that's what Mother did. You know, it's like you take a client with you, and that's your income to get you going. We started with no one.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had to go out to get it one from word go. So I would say start with a client. And start with your team fully in place.
Yes, I was going to ask who at that point was it? Was it just you and Luke?
It was me and Luke and Sam Brooks, who was our account woman and new business lead, and then Jen Black replaced Sam.
Right. Yes.
Sam wanted a bit more security, which is totally fair enough. Yeah. And then we would freelance in strategy.
Cool.
But I think if I was ever to do that again, I would make sure I've got my core team with me.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, we started prematurely because Campaign rang us up and said, we're going to run a story. We've heard you're setting up your own place. We're running the story. I literally had my child in my arms. I was on paternity leave. I said, please don't run a story. We're not ready yet.
Are you still at WCRS?
No.
Oh, well, you'd gone by that point. Okay.
No, we had gone by that point. Yes, so there wasn't anything controversial there. But I did say, look, I'd like to do it properly. I'd like to do an announcement. I'll come to you with that announcement, or we would. And but they said, well, we're running the story anyway. So either you play ball or you don't. So straight away it was in the press. And then it was like, and I'm still on paternity leave. It was stressful from the off.
Oh, God.
But you know what? It was a hell of... I would... If you've got that itch, I would definitely do it. We learnt a hell of a lot. But do it with a client, do it with your full team. And also work out if you're that guy or that woman to want to run your own business. Now, if I don't think I'm not a good business person. So it's not my strength. But if you can get that person in place that can do that, then fantastic. But I felt like we were doing everything a little bit. Yeah. Even though we had a very good finance department. Yeah. No, 2 people in there. But no, it's great. I mean, I would... It was a brilliant experience. I think I'm quite an anxious individual.
Okay.
And I think it wasn't great for me, and I apologise to Luke and Jen, Kelly and Calvin for, probably being, I was stressed. When you've got X amount of contacts on your hand, and you've
Well,
got one left, and none of them, they might want to give you business. I mean, some of them did. I mean, let's face it, it was actually a success. We won William Hill, we won OVO Energy, and when I left, we were in profit, but don't get me wrong, it was good, but it was get everything in place.
yeah. And that's account handling, strategy, and creative, you'd say.
Well, if you want to be a traditional agent, in that sense, yeah. But I would get, if you're not a finance guy, if you're not good with numbers, don't try and do that yourself.
Fair.
If you,
That's what you're good at.
yeah, stick to what you're good at. Yeah. And then that would have been a lot easier for me.
Okay, cool. I want to know about RNIB when you were at TMP. Just moving on from Fabula. Just quick journey. Where did you go then? Was it Lucky's then, or
after Fabula, I went to help out at Lucky's.
Yes.
Yes, to give Danny and the team there, Helen and Andy, some support.
Did you work with them at Mother? Because Jesus, so many great people came from Mother.
No, I never did.
Oh.
Danny, I think I did a sort of freelance stint with Luke at Mother, and Danny was freelancing there at the same time. But I'd met Danny socially and got on, and we were friends. So that's how I knew him. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So you did a stint at Lucky's, and then that's when the AND partnership, or CHI at the time, right, came around.
CHI at the time, and then when I joined, they were just changing their name to the AND partnership.
Okay. Cool.
Introducing the longest email address known to man. Yeah,
Still is.
The AND partnership.
Yeah.
Still
I don't know
is.
if it's changed now though. TMP squared or something. TMP2.
Oh, maybe. Or
I'll have to look
M2.
into that. I think it might still be the mpartnership.com.
Yeah.
But either way.
Good email chat.
Yeah. Nice. We'll edit that out. No. So, I mean, RNIB, I mean, God, you've won.
RNIB,
Yes, have I said that right?
RNIB, yes. The Royal National Institute for the Blind, not the bird people.
Got it.
That's what a lot of people get wrong.
Cool. Damn it, I was on about the wrong one. I do.
Shit, you had a whole thing lined up about ospreys?
I wanted to talk about goldfinches, eagles. No. So, I mean, you won loads of awards for that. You've created products and exhibitions that have been in the Design Museum.
Design Museum, yep.
Are they still there? Or was that kind of?
Actually, I haven't checked recently, but I don't see why they shouldn't be. Yeah.
That to me encompasses all what a creative agency should be: making good ads as well as making stuff which has a purpose. So talk to me about how that came around, how you got to make the first blind pregnancy test, which is just. I still tell people that, and they're like, "What? That's such a good idea! I can't believe that." I tell my mum. Yeah. Mum's like, "Wow, that's a great idea." And you done.
Well, you know what? First of all, to your first comment, I would say, wherever I go anywhere to do a job, I love the idea of the work that you look back on over your tenure or even the year or whatever it is pretty multifaceted or solution agnostic, if you like. Yeah. So if you're going to do a film, do a good film. If the solution requires a product, which probably they haven't asked for, by the way, but if it does, then do a product. Or whatever it might be, or a great social campaign, I love the idea or an event of it being completely fully rounded, and we do this, that, and the other, and we do it well. So that my reel at the end, or our reel as the agency, should be diverse.
Yeah.
So that's where I want to be. I don't want to just do film. I don't want to just do products. I want to do the lot. And I think that's sort of the sort of perfect optimism that I have, which is, why can't we? Well, let's do it. So that's what I like to produce. How did the pregnancy test come about? Well, basically, I have one person to thank for that, which is a creative called Helen Rogerson, who has a brilliant brain and is one of those people that reads. She was working on the RNIB as a creative. She was one of my creatives in the department. She just trawled the blogs around visual impairment, partially sighted people, all the blogs and all the forums, and she spotted it in one comment that there was not, someone said, how can this be? There's not a pregnancy test for people who have visual impairment. And
water.
Luckily, we can edit this out
Yeah.
a bit. Well, in short, I thought it was such a powerful thing
Yeah.
to discover
Yep.
and try and do something with.
Yeah.
So from that moment on, it was, let's do it. Let's try and do it.
Yeah.
But I think it was but thanks to her.
Yeah. Wow.
That wasn't anything to do with me. I mean, I helped along the way, but and I championed it, but it's her.
Yeah. Wow. Shout out to Helen. Jesus. Let's talk more about the AM partnership then, dude.
Yeah.
We can, because be great Argos ads, great British Gas ads, all of that. So maybe we talk about future, Jan.
Future Jan.
Oh, now, what's happening?
Christ, am I AI'd already?
Was it a deep fake or something?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, this actually isn't actually happening, is it?
No.
I'm not here.
Neither of us are here yet. Why don't we talk about a couple of things before we end? I'm really curious about. I don't think we've spoken to people enough about portfolio and what you look for in a creative when you hire for your team.
Yeah.
Because it's so subjective. I look at portfolios every single day, but I'm so curious for you that's super experienced, made some fantastic work over your career. What are you actually looking for? Like, let's take it as a junior entering the industry.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in their portfolio? What do you need to see, read?
Yeah. Diverse ideas.
What does that mean?
So, sorry, what does that mean? So, what that means, I want to see on their site, this is the ad campaign I've written for whatever it is. This is the product I've decided I'd like to get off the ground.
Cool.
Or I'm talking to someone about making, or it could just sit there and go, I think it's a great product, people should do it. I want to see one-off ideas, stunts, that don't need any more explanation than just doing it once, and you just go, that's a great idea. But I also want to see longevity of thinking, and obviously through the line, you do this, and then you've got this social, and then you've got this event, and then this is what happens on the app, and all that as well. So I want to see all of that. And actually, I'm going to use an example recently of a team we've just hired at Weber Shandwick called Carly and Marley.
Awesome.
And they're two girls who, met quite a few teams, and they were all very good, but they stood out to me. It was funny. They talked to me. I asked them about why they teamed up with each other. Sorry, and they were saying, funny enough, we didn't want to team up with each other at first. They had other people they wanted to team up with, best friends, but it didn't work. And for some reason, I think one of them decided not to pursue advertising or whatever. Anyway, so these two teamed up, and I asked them what they liked about each other, and they had just such great independent respect for each other's roles. It was incredible.
Wow.
Marley would say, I love Carly because she can do this, she can do that, these are things I can't do. And it was absolutely the mutual respect for people. They were, they're young. But it was just lovely to see, and I just thought that's a really healthy team.
Yeah.
And they're obviously, goes without saying, they're ambitious. They want to do more, and Actually, it was a sort of meeting of hearts about
Yeah.
what they wanted to achieve as well, was what I wanted to achieve. So, and that's including
So there's an
diverse
alignment
amount.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're up for a challenge as well, because what I've taken on at Weber Shandwick is a new challenge that's
Yeah.
going to take a bit of time, but they were up for the journey.
Yeah. Let's talk about Weber then. Like, and they sound brilliant,
Yeah.
by the way.
So I've got to blow my nose.
Oh, do it. No.
There's all this tear thing.
It's special. It was super special, that campaign. Jesus. Well, the idea.
Yes, Weber, yeah.
Weber, you've hired that brilliant team. I haven't seen their portfolio, but I presume it's full of wonderfully diverse ideas,
Yes, it
such
is,
as their character and self-respect for respect for each other. Weber Shandwick, everybody thinks, big chunky PR agency, but what's happening inside? What's going on?
Well, so correct, big chunky communications agency, PR based.
I've probably said that too bluntly, haven't I? Sorry.
No, not at all. No, I think that's absolutely. I think that's absolutely a perception. I think that's spot on, and a bit like, what do they do? So, well, I'm going to take a step back to what interested me in the role. So, obviously, my background is full on advertising, traditional agencies, although not necessarily traditional work as such. But I was noticing in the advertising world, the bigger accounts were becoming few and far between. As in, there used to be an era where there was 3 or 4 or 5 big pitches a year, and you'd get on them, and you got to nail 1 or 2. There seems to be few and far between. I noticed that even on the big accounts, they were looking for more quick wins, some spikes on X, some news headlines, getting behind causes and doing the right thing and being culturally interesting on a more of a short-term, quick fix basis. And we've always, everyone I've ever worked with, my partners and everything, we've always done work that should get headlines. You want it to get headlines, really. Like good stories, So I kind of felt like, well, if I go more towards PR, maybe I could. That's kind of where I start with a blank piece of paper anyway, which is like, who's going to be interested in this? Who's going to write a story about it? So it made sense to me to go there. Now, they are more traditional press office, or have been, but we are on a journey to make them more diverse and opening up other channels and offering clients that come into Weber slightly different creative solutions that they've come through the door not expecting.
Nice.
So we could go, here's your solution to the brief you gave us, but have you thought about this as well? So I want to personally expand those accounts and offer them something that they weren't expecting. And actually appear, success for me would be appearing, being talked about or written about in places that wouldn't normally talk about Weber Shandwick.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
I love that. And I think the team around you as well, you've got an epic team. I think not many people realise like the pedigree of humans that you've got in that building, slowly, shifting the tide, as it were, right?
Yeah, so I think this is massively important, actually, and to even people starting out, is look at the team that you're going to be working to, your leadership team. One of the reasons I thought was really interesting, because I hadn't really considered Weber Shandwick as an option, actually. But through you guys and a bit of serendipity, I also bumped into Amy Garrett, who I used to work with at Mother, funny enough. And she's on a mission along with Gen Kobayashi. Top guy, Chief Strategy Officer, ex-Engine. Michael Froelich, ex-Ogilvy. And Helen Bennett is our sort of day-to-day CEO. All very decent human beings. All have the same agenda as myself. And I think that makes a hell of a difference, because one thing I have learned along the way is look at the leadership team and just check that they have the same agenda as you. So if that is a creative agenda, do ask yourself, do they really want that? And we've got a long way to go, but we're on that journey, and I really feel like these guys do. It's not easy because it's not set up for that, so it's going to take a time, but I feel very positive about it.
How was the divide between being awards driven and just being driven by successful work?
Yeah, very good question.
Particularly from in an earned agency.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good news is a lot of clients are talking about wanting to win more awards. Now, talking about it is very different to going the whole journey with you. But that's good because, if you're trying to, it's a great way, it's a great excuse to present whatever you want if they're on board with that, I would say, I've always said, I don't write or create for awards. I write and create really to be different, and a solution that hasn't been done before is really what I'm after. However, the truth is, the modern world, awards are important. Yeah. And so you've got to play the game. So if a client is really keen to win an award, I'm not going to stop that because I'm going, okay, well, this is what it's going to take.
Yeah.
So I'll go on that journey, but I don't set out to do that. And certainly it was always a byproduct. I think it's because you set out to do something bigger than an award.
Yeah.
That's where you start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like even if it's a worthy thing, you want to make a proper impact in the world.
Yeah.
That's where you're starting from. So an award is could possibly be smaller than the bigger ambition that you want. But of course, if you pick that up along the way, great.
I love that. We've got a couple of minutes, but I've got to know about this big door back in the days of Mother and the caravan. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, Mother set up their offices in Clerkenwell.
Yeah.
That was the first main office. Great office, a really open plan. But Clerkenwell wasn't, as sort of gentrified as it is now. Really, it was slightly rougher. I mean, of course, they then went off to Redchurch Street, which is another step into the unknown. And of course, you wouldn't know that was quite a rough area at that point now. But when they were in Clerkenwell, they had these big folding doors, and of course, and on the back end, and then on the front end had glass windows, so everyone could just see in. And the truth is, we worked really hard at Mother simply because we were so dedicated and such a passionate bunch of people. But we'd be working late.
Yeah.
It was 10:30, 11 o'clock, and we're starting to think we better go home. But there was one particular night I was working with a few other people in the office, 2 or 3. So scarily not enough of us. But and I'm tapping away, rewriting something for the 100th time probably. And I'm hearing a revving of the engine outside these big doors. And I think, oh, that's weird. Wonder what's going on out there. But anyway, let's get this thing done. And then suddenly it revs and smack. It hits, but doesn't come in those doors. And we're like, shit, did that really happen? It then reversed. And at that moment we thought, Christ, it's coming back. So we're picking up our laptops and running to the other end of the office just to move as a Vauxhall Astra comes straight through the back doors. People jump out, nick what they can. And we're, of course, going, being absolutely pathetic.
Have you got your laptop on you?
Yeah, mate, listen, I've been working late. I'm not letting anyone have that. And we're pegging it over there, and they grab what they can. They couldn't grab a lot because we all picked ours up, but they jumped back in the Astra, reversed, and pissed off.
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
Jesus.
Pretty mad.
That's a pretty epic story, and a great story to end on. Thank you so much.
Sam, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.